No, just wait. Here we go.
Oh, hi everyone. I see everyone's loading in. We're just going to give it a couple seconds so that everyone's account can connect.
Yeah.
In the meantime, there should be a spot where you can ask Q&A. Can you type in there and let us know that you can hear us?
There's a little option on the bottom, Q&A. Don't hit the chat one because it doesn't.
I think it might not work, the chat.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
awesome.
perfect. Okay. I think that we can get started now. It looks like they've stopped adding in the queue.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just wanted to make sure everyone can hear us before we start our slides. Share screen.
Oh, I see. Okay. We're gonna jump in.
Welcome to our Studying in Australia OzTREKK info session. My name is Charlene. This is my colleague Megan. We're doing this as just like a general overview. There's other sessions going on that you may have seen for dentistry, medicine, physio. This one is just to give a general overview of like the other programs that we see. And so it won't go super in depth, but we're hoping to just give you an idea of what it's like to apply and what program options you have.
Okay, so we're gonna first talk about OzTREKK and what we do to help. We'll talk a bit about Australia and then the degree options that we commonly see and financing your studies. And then we'll finish off with a Q&A session. We are trying to keep it under a half hour. So we'll get to as many as we can. And then anything we don't get to, we will follow up with an email as well. And we'll try and keep them pretty general questions about the application process and things like that. Anything like very program specific, like entry requirements, how they'll assess your application. Best to email the appropriate admissions team because it will differ from program to program. And we won't likely have time to get into all the nitty-gritty. So that's kind of what we're looking at.
So this is just to give you a general idea of what our team looks like. I'm going to move this box a little bit over. So this is me on the left. I'm the admissions manager at OzTREKK. And then as you can see, we have admissions officers for specific programs so that you will have like one-on-one there to specific admissions officers, and they're the pros in their area. So we have rehab science, nursing, public health, optometry, that's Laura and Leanna, dentistry, law, pharmacy, teaching, Matthew, Chris, Jennifer, and then medicine and vet is Amanda, Megan, and Bridget. This is Megan. And then you can see how it says undergraduate, postgraduate. That's just kind of everything else that isn't in these other programs. So if you have questions in a program that you don't see listed here, Megan is the one to email and they'll be able to help you there.
Anything under the sun, we've seen it all. Okay, so kind of a brief intro to what OzTREKK does. First, our like motto is students first. We always put the student first in everything we do, and we give full student support from the application to arrival phase, like when you get to Australia or New Zealand, and we're a free service. So it's actually our university partners that pay for our services, so it's free for students to use, which is great. We're the official representative of 12 Australian universities, and we do have one New Zealand university partner, which is Otago. We have, as you saw in the admissions kind of outline, there's a dedicated program-specific admissions officers for each program area. So yeah, you're getting, experienced advice from our admissions officers. They've worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of students in those program areas, so they've come across it all. And we've had like 1,000 students commence in Australia over the last 2 years. So lots of experience across the admissions team.
So just a general guide of what we do and how it kind of works when students contact us. So first is we help students determine if they're eligible and competitive to apply. So that's where most students are right now who are coming to these webinars. You're trying to determine what programs you want to apply to, where you'll be competitive. And we walk students through of what universities are best for them to apply to, depending on their GPA or admissions test, depending on the program they're applying to. And so usually at this stage, students are sending us an unofficial transcript, telling us their program of interest, and we're looking over it all and giving them some feedback. We don't do GPA calculations. We just give a rough idea of what we've seen, which is usually pretty helpful because we have seen a lot of applications. And then once you know what programs you want to apply to, that's when you submit the OzTREKK application. So this doesn't go to the universities. They have no way of seeing it. It just comes directly to our office. And it's just to get your basic information, like education history, and then the programs you want to apply to. And when we receive that application, we'll send you a list of all the documents we're going to need for every application you're applying to. So you can apply to multiple universities at once. And then the ball is in your court to get in all of your documents, which is usually transcripts, passports, supplemental forms. A lot of it is sent by email to us, except for your transcripts that are sent from the university to our office directly. We'll certify them as official. Once we receive all your documents for an application, then we submit it on your behalf. So there's nothing you have to do. A lot of our schools will waive the fee for students who apply through us, which is a bonus. And we'll get your apps in right away. And then we liaise through the whole rest of the process. So interview, offer, we like to prep students ahead of time to know what's coming down the pike. If they get an offer, we like to let them know, like, here's what to expect for the tuition deposit. Here's how you're going to accept, to make sure that you're feeling ready before each stage. And then should you accept an offer, we'll then help you through the pre-departure phase, which includes information about accommodation, visa tips, just everything you're going to need to know to get to Australia and start your program on time. So we really hold your hand through the whole process. There's no question off limits. We're accessible by email and phone calls. We have video chats with students. And so we really want to just make the process a lot easier for you.
Yeah, a few things to add too is we're an international agent, so we're only able to work with international students, and we're specifically for Canada and the US. So we aren't able to assist students who are Australian or New Zealand citizens. You would have to apply as a direct, like, domestic applicant. The other thing is visa related questions. We get a lot of those in the pre-departure phase. We have a lot of information based on what we've heard from other students, which we can certainly provide, but we're not immigration agents, so we can't give like official visa advice. There is a visa service though you can contact for those types of questions. And then the other thing is like advice on the pre-departure. We give advice on the pre-departure phase, but we don't make arrangements for students on those, like accommodation. We don't arrange finances, things like that, but we have lots of resources to help you get started and know what the process looks like. And it runs pretty smoothly for most students. Anytime there's any issues, we work with the university to get it solved. So it's we're here to advocate for you, but not here to necessarily do all of it when it comes to the pre-departure side. And that's kind of the only ones I wanted to add. So university partners, this is just a rough idea, or sorry, an outline of the universities we have in Australia. I did mention we have a New Zealand partner, which is not shown on the map here, but that's Otago. It's in Dunedin. But yeah, giving you a rough idea of where the university partners we work with are. Most of them are in big cities across the coast. And yeah, there's lots of options. Kind of going to touch on Australia a bit really quickly. Why students choose to study in Australia. Honestly, our universities are really prestigious. A lot of them are really well ranked. I think we actually have a slide that kind of shows you a comparison to Canadian schools coming up, but global reputation in a lot of the program areas that we work with. A lot of times, or in most cases, you can come back and practice in Canada. Certainly with our professional programs that we work with, the big ones, medicine, dentistry, physio, we only select and we only work with the programs that will allow you to come back to Canada. When we get into the really niche undergrad, postgrad programs, sometimes we'll run into ones that may not translate back to Canada, and it's something we aren't familiar with necessarily ahead of time, but we do our best to try and give you that information along the way. There's a lot of student support with our universities as well, especially for international students. I know Canadian schools, sometimes the international student population is quite small. It's not that case in Australian universities that we work with. There's actually quite a number of international students. So you get a lot of student support in that regard from the university. And a lot of schools have a hands-on approach with their programs, which is really great. Students, appreciate that. I mean, the beautiful climate and beaches in the cities don't hurt either. A lot of the cities even have beaches, right there as well. So it's a great lifestyle, a very adventurous outdoor lifestyle, which students appreciate. Those are just kind of a couple of the reasons students choose it. Give you a little taste of what life is like in Australia. There's cities and beaches and ocean, and it's beautiful.
So here's just a look at the university rankings. I won't go through them all, but it's just to give you an idea of some of the universities that are similarly ranked to what you would see in Canada, and probably universities feel more similar to you. So this is the QS World Rankings. It's very similar in Australia, so it's not like you're getting a lesser education. Their systems, like not just their education system, but law system, health system, are very, very similar to Canada, which is why a lot of our students like to go. And this is just for your reference, so you can see that. Yeah, and all of them are listed in the top 100, which is pretty impressive, so that's good. Okay, we're going to kind of touch on the different degree options that we work with. Again, this is not an exclusive list. There's lots of programs, basically any university program. So any program the universities offer, for the most part, we can help with, unless there's a specific limitation. Sometimes the program is not eligible for visa holders, things like that, but we don't run into that a ton. So anything from like architecture, environmental science, health related programs, engineering, IT, kind of general arts and business is big too. And then professional programs like nursing, public health, rehab sciences kind of thing too. Yeah, even about this, if there's a program area that you're interested in, but you don't know what university, you're not really sure about the program area, let us know, send us an email with all the information that you do know that you want. And then we can investigate and give you some program options that might be best for you. Yeah, we know our university partners well, so you can tell us the program area and we can let you know what options there are. Yeah. Okay, kind of going to go over the general admissions application timeline, I should say, because it is quite a bit different than here in North America, which you're probably familiar with. So first, to start off, the semester intakes that we call them are different than here in Canada. So just so you know, semester one in Canada starts in September usually. In Australia, it is not. It's February and March is usually the start of the year. And then semester two is usually like June, July, August, depending on the school we're looking at. Sometimes there's even a semester three option, depending on the program. Those are usually in the October, November timeframe. So just kind of keep in mind that it's a little bit different. That being said, typically most programs start in semester one in Australia, or most students choose that start date anyways. So this kind of timeline we're going to look at is more for that, semester one start, but really you can get started along any point along the way. Usually, as long as the deadline hasn't passed, we can, move things along pretty quickly. But to give yourself lots of time, we recommend starting your application about a year in advance of the program start, which usually is January or February, getting your documents into us in the spring, Canadian spring, these are Canadian seasons we're looking at. So March to May, again, you can do it as fast or as slow as you prefer. We usually submit applications to the universities in the summer. Again, some programs we can submit later into the fall. So it's not necessarily we have to do it in the summertime for you. That's just the majority of what we see. And then September, December, offers, acceptances, getting ready for this program to start, getting all your arrangements for pre-departure done, and for the program to start in February, March. So orientation, classes begin, things like that. And this is just a general application timeline. And so there are some programs, it varies a lot by program and university. So there are some that might have rolling admissions and you apply in the spring and get an offer in the spring and can accept then. So this is just to give you just super general for a lot of the more common programs that we do. This is what we see, but it's definitely not like that for every single program in university. So just
keep in mind it can
yeah.
all vary a little bit. Okay, we're going to kind of highlight a few of the, more common programs we work with in this kind of other category that we're kind of doing for the webinar sessions. Charlene's going to talk about pharmacy really quickly, and then I'll jump into a few others.
Yeah, so first is pharmacy. Usually most of our students do a Bachelor of Pharmacy. It's 4 years, varying depending on credit. And that when you graduate from the 4 years, it's equivalent to the Doctor of Pharmacy in Canada. So you can still come back to Canada with the Bachelor of Pharmacy. And what we usually see are students coming directly from high school need about a 76 to an 85% average in their top grade 12 courses. And so if you're in Ontario, that top grade 12 courses are six of your top university level grade 12 courses. If you're outside of Ontario, it's usually your top 5 grade 12 courses that they're taking, which include English. And then if you have started your university studies and you're looking to go right into a Bachelor of Pharmacy, or if you've completed a university degree, then they're usually looking for a cumulative of 65 to 70%. Of course, the higher your GPA, the more competitive you are. And it varies again by university. So this is just to give you a general overview. And then for prerequisites, it's usually English, a math, that's a calculus and advanced functions, no statistics, no data set, it has to be calculus or advanced functions, and then chemistry, biology, and physics. Again, varies by university. If there's a specific program you have in mind or university you have in mind, just let us know and we can let you know the prerequisites and GPA for that specific course.
Okay, I'm going to talk about nursing. It's another big one for us. The nursing program options vary quite a bit. There's everything from, Bachelor of Nursing, which would equivalent to like getting you to an RN, if you know anything about nursing, or there's, master's programs that you can become a nurse practitioner. So again, this is pretty broad, but for the bachelor level programs, if you're coming from high school, usually like a 60 to 78% average from your grade 12 courses is what they'd be looking at. Again, varies. Some are looking at your top 6. Some might look at cumulative, like, all grade 12 subjects, but gives you a good idea of what range to be in. Prereqs are pretty standard. English, bio, chem, and math are recommended. Usually math, they're looking for, a higher math, calculus, advanced functions, things like that, but it can vary. So we can give you more advice if you're looking for that. If you're coming from university, most of the master's level programs are looking at a 70 to 80% average. Usually it's cumulative. Prereqs, again, pretty standard for nursing programs, biochem or physics at the undergrad level. And they want to see usually a basic understanding of human anatomy, or it might not be required, but it's probably recommended in most cases. Another thing to mention is that English language requirements are big with nursing programs. It's actually governed by the Australian licensing board, the accreditation board for nursing. And it's quite in depth. They go usually back to elementary school, which can be a little bit tricky in some cases. So just keep in mind, English language is quite big. It is required to apply to pretty much most programs. So if you have any concerns there, you can reach out to the rehab science girls, work with the nursing program, and they can kind of help you navigate those. And midwifery is, those programs are kind of amongst the nursing, faculties and things like that. Most of them are master's level programs. So they're looking at university studies. They're usually a bit higher in terms of what's competitive. 80%-ish is a rough idea of what they're looking at. Prereqs usually are quite similar. So it gives you just a brief look at what you'd need to be into a nursing program. Public health is another big one we work with. They are usually master's level programs, so Master of Public Health. So they're looking at students from a university background, usually minimum of 60 to 75% cumulative GPA usually. And they do like to see broad range of background disciplines. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to come from a health related field to apply. Usually they're pretty, open. There's variable options for majors, dissertation options. Some even have overseas placement. This program is actually quite different too, in that a lot of the nursing, pharmacy, speech and audiology, those programs require you to be on campus. Public health programs, a lot of them have online delivery options. So you don't necessarily need to be in Australia to take the program. You could, take it from, at home in Canada, but getting a university degree from an Australian university, those kind of public health programs have a lot of options there. And they also have a lot of career outcomes. So you don't necessarily have to just work in public health. There's, a wide range of reasons why students choose a Master of Public Health. It's a good, even a backup option if a health related field doesn't work out. A lot of students look at a Master of Public Health as a good backup.
Okay, speech pathology and audiology. Usually we see, well, actually for all our programs, they're master's level. So for both programs, you will need a completed bachelor degree. For speech specifically, it needs to be in a health related field. And then the GPA that we usually see, the minimum to apply is a 65% cumulative, but we start to see students become competitive once they hit the 75% range. And then the prerequisites are a little bit different for each. So for speech, you'll need human anatomy, physiology, and psychology. It varies, again, by university and by
program.
Program. And then for audiology, you'll need speech, physiology, biological sciences, phonetics, and phonology. Again, if you don't know if you meet these or you have something similar and you don't know if it's going to meet the requirement, send your unofficial transcript to our office, and Leanna and Laura will look it over and let you know, because they've seen a lot of transcripts and a lot of students apply to this, so they'll be able to let you know if you're eligible.
It's a good picture of the Sydney Opera House, fan favorite in Australia. Okay, we're going to kind of look at financing options that students choose, or they usually do like a combination of ways. So we'll kind of outline that, how students fund their studies. So typically it's a combination of 3 or 4, depending on, scholarship options that are available, but usually provincial student loans are our big one. Even though you're studying internationally, you can still apply through your provincial student loans. So if you're on Ontario, it's OSAP, BC, it's BC Student Aid. I believe Alberta Student Aid is what it's called as well. BC and Alberta have a lot more funding availability. I think they're like 20 to 30,000. If you're in Ontario, you're limited to usually about 10 grand a year, but it can help with living costs. So it's not going to take a huge chunk out of tuition usually, but good for the living expenses that are usually pretty similar from year to year, and can help quite a bit. The second is line of credit, usually from a bank or I guess a credit union, depending on, where you're, usually where you're set up already or your family has a history is a good place to start, but you can shop around a little bit. You will need a co-signer to have a line of credit, so just keep that in mind as well. But yeah, you can look in the big banks, CIBC, RBC, TD, Scotiabank, all those. And those line of credit options will depend on the program. So sometimes there's a professional line of credit, or there's like a student line of credit, or just like a standard line of credit options, depending on your background or what the program is. Your bank, not teller, but the advisor will be able to tell you more. The other is personal or family savings. So sometimes students have help from their family to pay for their studies. Sometimes they're doing it all on their own and they have a bit of personal savings that they've accumulated. Sometimes students are doing a combination of that as well as working while they study, as long as the program allows it. And I mean like time that, spare time in the program. Sometimes the intense ones like medicine, dentistry, there's not a lot of, spare time, but, if you're looking at a nursing program or, Master of Public Health, sometimes it's feasible to have a part-time job, which you are able to do on a student visa. And then the other option, which is kind of variable, are scholarships. So there are some, depending on the program, there's some scholarships that are program related. Some are very general, available to all international students. Some will be merit-based. Some will just be, general requirements. In some cases, you can apply to them. You need to apply to them separately. In some cases, they will all be automatically assessed. So it really varies. They're certainly not guaranteed. So we don't necessarily recommend students, factor it into how they'll pay with their studies, but it's a good bonus if it does work out. It can help a little bit with tuition costs, and certainly something to look into. Like, we recommend applying to anything you feel like you're eligible for, and give it a shot. Depending on the school, sometimes the application pools for these scholarships are quite big, but sometimes it can be, if it's pretty specialized, it can be quite small. So your chances can vary a bit. A good kind of outline of what any tuition fees on a university website, or any like cost of anything on a university website, will be in Australian dollars. Anything on our website we convert to Canadian dollars, but honestly, it's usually quite similar. It's usually around par. Just to give you a taste of what it's like at the moment, January 2023, it's like $1 Canadian is $1.08 Australian, so it's pretty close.
Yeah, that's all we have for the overview, but if you will take some questions now, but if by chance you think of something later, or you don't want to ask your questions now, or we can't get to your question now, whatever it is, you can always contact us. So either if you're on our website and you're on a program specific page, at the bottom of every page will always be a contact us, and it'll send you right to the appropriate AO.
Admissions team.
Oh,
AO
yeah, sorry,
admissions officer.
Yeah, and if not, like if you forget, you can always email info@oztrek.com. It'll come directly to me, and then I'll make sure it gets to the appropriate team. If you're more of a phone person, you can always call us. There's a number there. It's also on our website under contact us. We're in the office from 8:30 to 4 to 5, Monday to Friday, Eastern Standard Time. So you can always give us a call in. And also our website is here too, if you want more specific information. Any requirements for a lot of our main programs will be listed on the site if you want to check it out. Yeah, that's all we got.
Okay, we're gonna end the slide so we can see the questions.
I'm gonna
stop sharing.
I don't know how. Over here. Okay.
And then question and answer here. Okay, so we've got some, we can hear you. Okay, things like psychology, they have to be registered with Ontario Association. Is that easy to get registered having a degree from another country? Psychology is a big one we work with, actually. In terms of the licensing to come back to Canada, it's more something you just have to confirm. Every province is a bit different, and it might depend on the exact program that you choose, but usually you can reach out to, for example, the Ontario Association to confirm what the requirements are, and then we can look at what that is. We can compare it to the school, and we can ask details. That's something we don't know ahead of time necessarily if it is. We have to basically, contact the school and contacting the Ontario Association, which the students usually do. So it's something that for the undergrad, postgrad programs that are not like the professional programs that we have, hundreds and hundreds of applicants to, it's kind of a case-by-case basis. Students usually have to do a little, digging on their own, but for the most part, we have a lot of psych students. I suspect it's, I don't know if it's easy, but it is possible.
We have another question. How much does it cost on average a semester at university in Australia?
It varies.
That's a good question. It varies a lot. So each program is a bit different, and we find the more professional program, then the more expensive it is. So I think it could range from anywhere from 25,000 to up to 50,000, depending on the program. I
mean, it could be up to 90,000 if we're talking about a medical program.
A year.
Yeah. Sorry. So yeah, it really ranges, and it's typically a lot more expensive than it would be at a domestic school. So just keep in mind, international tuition fees will not compare to a domestic university you'd be applying to.
Yeah. It's not a secret that studying anywhere as an international student will always be a more costly endeavor than studying as domestic. What I would urge anyone who's listening to this is to make sure that you have your financial conversations early. Talk to your family. Will somebody be able to sign for you? How much will this really cost? Talk to the bank. You don't even need to sign anything. Just having a initial conversation with the bank to see if it's a viable option for you is good to have early, because we do have a lot of students who get an offer, they put their tuition deposit down, and then they realize like financing isn't going to work for them, and it's like they went
A
through
bit
a
of a
lot of
letdown.
work.
Yeah.
It's a letdown.
It's
So
good to look into it early if you can. You don't need to like solidify anything. The universities don't require you to prove, you know, availability of finances or anything like that to apply. It's more just, you know, helping to make sure that you're setting yourself up for
Yeah.
something you're eligible for. Okay, good question here. I'm a Canadian and New Zealand citizen and wanted to apply as a New Zealand citizen to avoid international fees, but you said we can't help New Zealand citizens. Does this include me? So this is a good question. Even if you're a dual citizen, so either a Canadian American with Australian or New Zealand, so a dual citizen that way, you are automatically looked at as a domestic student. So yeah, you'd have to apply directly to the school. We're not able to assist you with those because we're an international agent. But yeah, it does come with, you know, international fees, or sorry, domestic fees, which are usually quite a bit cheaper. So certainly worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we aren't able to assist, even if you were to want to apply as an international student. The universities won't allow that, but sorry that we're not able to assist, but usually you can contact the universities directly. It's a little less complicated to apply as a domestic student, so there's less need for an agent, even if you're an internet, like even if you're applying from Canada or United States, the process is a little bit more streamlined.
Yeah, and there are a lot of perks to being like, aside from tuition, like if you're going into something a little like professional, then usually after you graduate, like getting accredited is usually
A little bit
better
smoother.
process. Yeah. So it's lucky. It's lucky to have citizenship there, just like in the money that you'll save. But
Yeah.
the downside is that we only have access to the international portal, so we can't help domestic students. It's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another question is, through OzTREKK, can students apply for a transfer from a Canadian university or program to a university in Australia to finish a degree, example, in a final year of study? This is a good question. We get it quite often. I mean, it's just going to depend a little bit on the program. I will say, like, really generally, typically it's not going to be a straight transfer like you'd be able to do at from a Canadian university to a Canadian university. There isn't really such thing as transfer. It's basically applying for the entire program, and if possible, depending on the program availability or what it allows, applying for credit for things that you feel are equivalent. Usually it's like, well, it has to be like the same level. So you're applying for a university degree, you have a university studies, and the subjects need to be, you know, similar topics. You can apply for credit. I would say it's certainly not guaranteed that you'll get credit for all of your courses. Usually we don't see students getting credit for more than a year or two of study. If in your specific example, when you're looking at, you know, transferring to an Australian university for a year of study, honestly, I think that probably study abroad or exchange is probably a better fit. You'd be basically paying your Canadian tuition costs, and they already have pre-arrangements with the universities in, you know, depending on what your school offers at the other international university. Typically, yeah, transfers are not as simple as that. They basically are applying for the full degree and applying for credit, and there's certainly no guarantee. And typically we don't see students getting 3 years worth of credit. Oh, there's like, oh, one more.
Do you also offer end of study internships?
No, we don't. Yeah, we're an international agent for Australian universities and basically it's for full degree
Degrees.
programs. There's some kind of options for like a post-grad diploma, things like that are shorter than, you know, a full bachelor or master's program, but we don't have any options that are just, you know, internship related or experience type options. It's basically what the universities offer, and we don't work outside of university partners. So we don't have any internship, resources or anything like that. That's a good one. Honestly, I'm not sure even where you'd start, or if that is even a possibility. But yeah, no, we're not able to assist with those. Another one is, I realize you are not visa experts, but seeking advice. I'm American, married to an Australian, and currently living together in America, but planning to move to Australia. So I'm looking for a master's there. I'd be applying for a student visa, but I'm worried about getting a genuine temporary entrant requirement. And this is pretty specific, but I'll just give a general overview. Genuine temporary entrant is a kind of a section of the visa application that they just basically wanting to make sure that you're entering the country for the reason that you've applied for the visa. So if you're applying for a student visa, they want to make sure that your plans on entering the program are because of studying. Again, we're not migration agents, so we don't have much advice to provide in terms of like if it's problematic or not. Our advice based on like what we've, feedback we've gotten from other applicants is basically, being honest in that section and highlighting the reasons that you are choosing to study in Australia, which, as long as it's genuine and you are wanting to just study there, shouldn't be a problem. It might be a little tricky if you are planning on, living there permanently. That's kind of a different, it's a whole visa thing.
Before you apply, it's best to call the visa office and tell them your situation.
They might be able to help.
And they'll
guide you a little
advise
bit,
what's the best way to go about it. And it might be like a student visa, and then like you can work thereafter. But they'll definitely be able to give you the best information.
It might even be, applying for PR, and because you can study on, other visa options you might be able to study on. So student visa might not be the only answer. But yeah, we're not immigration agents, and honestly, we're not like legally allowed to even give advice, and we just don't know the details. We aren't involved in that process. We're about 40 minutes now, so we're gonna maybe stop with the Q&A at the moment. That looks like we got everyone's question in there. If there's anything that you didn't ask yet, or you submitted a question in the registration that looks like most of them were quite program specific that we didn't touch on, we will pass them along to the appropriate admissions team and have them provide you an answer. But yeah, again, if you think of anything else, you can reach out to us on our website to get to the admissions team, or info@OzTREKK.com. We'll go to Charlene, and she knows where to pass it along. It's a pretty small office, so it won't get lost.
Well, thank you everyone for coming to our info session. We look forward to working with you, and I hope you have a really great day.
Bye.